Legislature right now, and it is very important that you understand that the Bill of Rights is our God-given rights, and the government may not abridge our rights whatsoever, whether it's in speech or in guns or anything like that. Those Bill of Rights, the federal government cannot abridge the state right either. Amendment 10 is for the states, and they have the right to just do everything. They have the jurisdiction over its people, and they have co-equal powers with the federal government. They are more powerful than the federal government. The federal government's power is to make sure that the states are doing laws that are pursuant to the Constitution. And so I just want to read Amendment number 1 says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the free speech or of the press. So that means or abridging the free speech of the people. Each individual has a right to publish, say, or do whatever they want. In America, the government may not tell you you cannot say this or hold this in any public square. So when you're at the Capitol, the neither Republicans nor Democrats can tell you that you cannot yell, scream, do whatever you want in that Capitol that is lawfully a speech. Or the right of the people to peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So when a person is at the Capitol and you're sitting on the top watching down below the legislators deliberate, which they don't really deliberate anymore. What they're doing is kind of like going through the motions. You can yell from the top and say, I don't think so. It is your right. And as long as you're peaceful and you just yell out your opinion, they cannot tell you no. It is unconstitutional that they are restricting it because of decorum. Bullshit. I don't care. You can be over there and you can petition and redress the government from the very top, sitting down, looking at your legislators. They cannot tell you no. When you're sitting in the community or in the hearing room and you can yell out and say, hey, I don't think so. This is bullshit that they control. Like, you only have 2 minutes to talk. My butt. I am so sorry. But free speech is a right, and you cannot limit it or control it at all. The government cannot regulate any speech, period. Okay, and this is speeches of Patrick Henry. And the most moving, eloquent denial by the anti-federalist of the need for a more energetic government came from Patrick Henry in speeches before the Virginia ratifying convention early in its deliberation. They were first printed in 1788, 1789, Petersburg, Virginia edition of the debate and other proceedings. So June 5th, 1788, Mr. Chairman. See, these are regular people. They're not Congress people. They can go down below and they can address the floor, from the floor. And we're not allowed to do that anymore at the Capitol. That is our Capitol. That is our house. We should be able to give a speech in front of the freaking Congress people and the legislators. So he says, Mr. Chairman, I rose yesterday to ask a question, which I rose in my mind when I asked the question. I thought the meaning of my interrogation was obvious. The fate of this question and America may depend on this. Have they said, we the state? wait, where am I? I lost myself. Have they said we the states? Have they made a proposal of compact between the states? If they had, this would be a confederation. It is otherwise most clearly a consolidated government. The question turns, sir, on that poor little thing, the expression, we the people. What does that mean? Instead of States of America, I need not take much pain to show that the principle of this system are extremely pernicious, impolitic, and dangerous. Is this a monarchy like England? A compact between princes and people with checks on the former to secure the liberty of the latter? Is this a confederacy like Holland, an association of a number of independent states, such each of which retain its individual sovereignty? It is not a democracy wherein the people retain all their rights securely. Had these principles been adhered to, we should not have been brought to the alarming transition from a confederacy to a consolidated government. We have no detail of these great considerations, which, in my opinion, ought to have abounded before we should recur to a government of this kind. Here is a revolution as radical as that which separated us from Great Britain. It is as radical if in this transition our rights and privileges are endangered. So I say today what he is saying about the Great Reset and about moving into a union, a united nation, a global reset. And I ask, what are we transitioning to? His question is very, very well thought out. So he goes on to say, and cannot we plainly see that this is the actual case? Oh no, I'm sorry. It is a radical if in this transition the rights and privileges are endangered and the sovereignty of the states be relinquished. And cannot we plainly see that this is the actual case? The rights of conscience, trial by jury, liberty of the press, all your immunities and franchises, all pretensions to human rights and privileges are rendered insecure, if not lost, by this change so loudly talked of by some and inconsiderately by others. Is this same relinquishment of rights worthy of freemen? Is it worthy of the manly fortitude that ought to characterize republicans? It is said 8 states have adopted this plan. I declare that if 12 states and a half had adopted it, I would, with manly firmness, and in spite of an erring world, reject it. You are not to inquire how your trade may be increased, nor how you are to become a great and powerful people, but how your liberties can be secured. For liberty ought to be the direct end of our government. Liberty. That is what we Americans are and what we adopted. We adopted the direct end of government is freedom. It is a liberty. Having premised these things, I shall, with the aid of my judgment and information, which I confess are not extensive, go into the discussion of this system more minutely. Is it necessary for your liberty that you should abandon those great rights by adoption of this system? Is the relinquishment of the trial by jury and the liberty of the press necessary for your liberty? Will the abandonment of your most sacred rights tend to the security of your liberty? Liberty, the greatest of all earthly blessings. Give us that precious jewel, and you may take everything else. But I am fearful I have lived long enough to become an old-fashioned fellow. Me too. I agree with Patrick Henry. Give me liberty, the greatest of all blessings. I am fearful I have lived long enough to become an old-fashioned gal. Perhaps an invincible attachment to the dearest rights of man and woman may in these refined, enlightened days be deemed old-fashioned. If so, I am contented to be so. I say the time has been when every pure of my heart beat for American liberty. But suspicious have gone forth, suspicious of my integrity, publicly reported that my professions are not real. 23 years ago, was I supposed a traitor to my country? I was then said to be a bane of sedition because I supported the rights of my country, and it is today too that I say, today, am I contend to be so, as I say, the time has been when every pure of my heart beats for American liberty, and which I believe had a counterpart in the breasts of every true American. But suspicions have gone forth, suspicions of my integrity, publicly reported. They called me a racist in public? Seriously? That was like a lie. They smeared me with racism in my last campaign. That was the media. Oh my goodness. I am like feeling what Patrick Henry is feeling right here. I supposed a traitor to my country. I was then said to be a bane of sedition, a traitor to my country. I was then said to be a bane of sedition because I supported the rights of my country. I supported the right to free speech. I supported the right to the Constitution. I support what it means to be American. I may be thought suspicious when I say our privileges and rights are in danger, and today they are on fire. Our rights are on fire. They're stripping us of everything that is American. But sir, a number of people of this country are weak enough to think these things are too true. I am happy to find that the honorable gentlemen and ladies on the other side declares they are groundless. But sir, suspicion is a virtue. As long as its object is the preservation of the public good, and as long as it stays within proper bounds, should it fall on me, I am contented Conscience, rectitude is a powerful consolidation. I trust there are many who think my profession for the public good to be real. Let your suspicion look to both sides. There are many on the other side who possibly may have been persuaded of the necessity of these measures, which I conceive to be dangerous to your liberty. Guard with jealousy, attention, the public liberty. Suspect everyone who approaches that jewel. Unfortunately, nothing will preserve it but downright force. Whenever you give up that force, you are inevitably ruined. I am answered by gentlemen, ladies, that though I might speak of terrors, yet the fact was that we were surrounded by none of the dangers apprehended. I conceive this government right now to be one of those dangers. Marla Fernandez, conceives this government in our state and in the United States, Biden's administration, to be a danger. It has produced those horrors which distress many of our best citizens. We are come hither to preserve to be the poor Commonwealth of Virginia. If it can be possibly done, something must be done to preserve your liberty and mine. The Confederation, this same despised government, merits, in my opinion, the highest encomium. I don't know that word. If anybody knows that word, please let me know, because right now I don't have a dictionary in on my side. It carried us through a long and dangerous war. It is going to carry us to a long and dangerous war if we don't stop it. It rendered us victorious in that bloody conflict with a powerful nation. In this case, it was England that we went to war back in 1700s. Today, we may be going to war with China and Russia. God bless us. It has secured us a territory greater than any European monarch possesses, and shall a government which has been thus strong and vigorous be accused of imbecility and abandoned for want of energy? Yeah, right now we have no energy. Consider what you are about to do before you do with this government. Take longer time in reckoning things. Revolutions like this have happened in almost every country in Europe and in every country in the world. In South America. Similar examples are to be found in ancient Greece and ancient Rome. Instances of people losing their liberty by their own carelessness and the ambition of a few. We are cautioned by the honorable gentlemen and ladies who preside against faction and turbulence. I acknowledge that licentiousness is dangerous, and thus it ought to be provided against. I acknowledge also the new form of government may effectually prevent it. Actually, yes, we can prevent it. Licentiousness, which is dangerous, is the immorality and the mental health issues that we are seeing today. Our government is not preventing anything. We are in danger. Yet there is another thing it will effectually do. It will oppress and ruin the people. There are sufficient guards placed against sedition and licentiousness, for when the power is given to the government to suppress these, like that means our freedom of speech. He's talking about speech. when you regulate speech, when the government regulates speech, he's saying that the government can actually oppress you. That's why the First Amendment is so important. He's talking about the First Amendment rights. And we're also, the government is oppressing us in our schools and our kids. They're creating little monsters so that they could control them. For when power is given to this government to suppress these, or for any other purpose, the language it assumes is clear, express, and unequivocal. But when this Constitution speaks of privileges, there is an ambiguity. Sir, a fatal ambiguity, an ambiguity which is very astonishing in the clause under consideration. There is the strangest that I can conceive. I mean, when it says that there shall not be more representatives than one for every 30,000, now, sir, how easy is it to evade this privilege? The number shall not exceed one for every 30,000. They may be satisfied by one representative for each state. Let our number be ever so great, this immense continent may, by this artful expression, be reduced to have but 13 representatives. I confess the construction is not natural, but the ambiguity of the expression lays a good ground for quarrel. Why was it not clearly and unequivocally expressed that they should be entitled to have one for every 30,000? This would have obviated all disputes. And was this difficult to be done? What is the interference? When population increases and a state shall send representatives in this proportion, Congress may remand them, because the right of having one for every 30,000 is not clearly expressed. This possibility of reducing the number to one for each state approximates to probability by that other expression, but each state shall at least have one representative. Now, is it not clear that from that expression the number might be reduced so much that some states should have no representatives at all? Were it not for the insurrection of this last expression? And as this is the only restriction upon them, we may fairly conclude that they may restrain the number to one from each state. Perhaps the same horrors may hang over my mind again. I shall be told I am continually afraid. But, sir, I have strong cause of apprehension. In some parts of the plan before you, the great rights of freemen are in danger. In other parts, absolutely taken away. How does your trial by jury stand? In civil cases, gone, not sufficiently secured. In criminal, this best privilege is gone, but we are told that we need not fear, because those in power, being our representatives, will not abuse the power we put in their hand. And you can see today that the people we put in office are abusing their power on both sides. I am not well versed in history. I am sort of well versed in history, although I think Meg might know a little bit more history. She's bought. But I will submit to your recollection whether liberty has been destroyed most often by the licentiousness of the people or by the tyranny of rulers. And I think today we can see that it's not speech or hate speech that's ruining and destroying our liberty, but it is the tyranny of our rulers. I imagine, sir, you will find the balance on the side of tyranny. Happy will you be if you miss the fate of those nations who, omitting to resist their oppressors or negligently suffered their liberty to be wrested from them, have groaned under intolerable despotism. Most of the human race are now in this deplorable condition. And those nations who have gone in search of grandeur, power, and splendor, like our state right now, have also fallen a sacrifice and been the victim of their own folly. Excuse me. While they acquired those visionary blessings, they lost their freedom. My great objection to this government, mine to this government today too, in his words, I object to this government, is that it does not leave us the means of defending our rights or of waging war against tyrants. If you take away our guns, you're going to take away our right to defend ourselves from a tyrannical and despotic government, period. It is urged by some gentlemen and ladies that this new plan will bring us an acquisition of strength, an army, and the militia of the states. This is an idea extremely ridiculous. Gentlemen cannot be in earnest. This acquisition will trample on your fallen liberty. Let my beloved Americans guard against that fatal lethargy that has pervaded the universe. Have we the means of resisting disciplined armies when our only defense, the militia, is put into the hands of Congress? Yeah, Amendment 2, if you follow what Patrick Henry is saying, he is saying that the militia is not the state National Guard. It's we, the people in this state, who own and bear guns, who have a right to own and bear guns. The governor in this state can call a militia of regular people in the state to defend itself against the tyrants in foreign lands. So Amendment 2 cannot be infringed upon. We cannot take away guns from the people. The people have a right to defend themselves against a tyrant, period. And we do have tyrants. The honorable gentlemen and ladies said that great danger would ensue if the convention rose without adopting this system. I ask, where is that danger? I see none. Other gentlemen and ladies have told us within these walls that the Union is gone, or that the Union will be gone. Is not this trifling with the judgment of their fellow citizens till they tell us the ground of their fears, I will consider them as imaginary. I rose to make enquiry where those dangers were. They could make no answer. I believe I never shall have the answer. Is there a disposition in the people of this country to revolt against the minion of laws? Has there been a single tumult in Virginia? Have not the people of Virginia, when laboring under the severest pressure of accumulated distresses, manifested the most cordial acquiescence in the execution of the laws? What would be more awful than the unanimous under general distresses? Is there any revolution in Virginia, in Colorado? Whither is the spirit of America gone? Whither is the genius of America fled? It was but yesterday when our enemies marched in triumph through our country. Yet the people of this country could not be appalled by their pompous armaments. They stopped their careers and victoriously captured them. Where is the peril now compared to that? Some minds are agitated by foreign alarms. Happily for those, there is no real danger from Europe. The danger is in China. There is a real danger from China, from Russia, from Biden. That country is engaged in more arduous business. From that quarter, there is no cause of fear. There is no cause of fear from our European allies. You may sleep in safety forever for them. Where is the danger? If, sir, there was any, I would recur to the American spirit to defend us. That spirit which has enabled us to surmount the greatest difficulties. To that illustrious spirit, I address my most fervent prayer to prevent our adopting a system destructive to liberty. Let not gentlemen and ladies be told that it is not safe to reject this government. Let us not be told that it is not safe to reject Biden, to reject Polis, to reject our legislators in Congress. We are told there are dangers, but those dangers are ideal. They cannot be demonstrated. To encourage us to adopt it, they tell us that there is a plain, easy way of getting amendments. When I come to contemplate this part, I suppose that I am mad, or that my countrymen and women are so. The way to amendment is my conception. Shut. Let us consider the plain, easy way. The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to the Constitution, or on the application of the legislature of 2/3 of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which in either case shall be valid to all intents, and propose as part of the Constitution when ratified by the legislature of 3/4 of the several states, or by convention of 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress. provided that no amendments which may be made prior to the year 1808, or maybe prior to the year of current year, shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses in the 9th section, so that no amendment which may be made which shall be made before the year 1808 shall in any manner affect the first and the fourth clauses in the 9th section of the first article, and that no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. Hence, it appears that 3/4 of the states must ultimately agree to any amendment that may be necessary. Let us consider the consequence of this. However uncharitable it may appear, yet I must tell my opinion. That most unworthy characters may get into power and prevent the introduction of amendments, as we see in Colorado. Let us suppose in Colorado we have a whole Democrat supermajority that are in power, prevent an unworthy characters, and are preventing amendments. Let us suppose for the case is supposable, possible, and probable that you happen to deal these powers to unworthy hands. Will they relinquish power already in their possession or agree to amendments? Well, we can see right now in our legislature and Meg Froelich and all these other representatives that we have right here that they are unwilling to relinquish power to agree to amendments, and they silenced a whole minority. Oh my goodness! It is like history is repeating itself. I mean, what Patrick Henry is saying here is he's saying that look at the future consequences of this Constitution. If 1/3 of these unworthy men and women, they may prevent the application for amendments, but what is destructive and mischievous is that 3/4 of the state legislatures or of state conventions must concur in the amendments when proposed. In such numerous bodies, there must necessarily be some designing bad men. To suppose that so large a number as 3/4 of the states will concur is to suppose that they will possess genius, intelligence, and integrity approaching to miraculous. It would indeed be miraculous that they should concur in the same amendments, or even in such as would bear some likeness to one another, for 4 of the smallest states that do not collectively contain 1/10 part of the population of the United States may obstruct the most salutary and necessary amendment. Nay, in these 4 states, 6/10 of the people may reject these amendments and suppose that the amendments shall be opposed to amendments, which is highly probable. Is it possible that 3/4 can even agree to the same amendments? A bare majority in these 4 small states may hinder the adoption of amendments, so that we may fairly and justly conclude that 1/12 part of American people may prevent the removal of the most grievous inconvenience and oppression by refusing to accede to amendments. And isn't this happening in our state legislature right here in Colorado? Yeah. A trifling minority may reject the most salutary amendments. In this, and easy mode. Is this an easy mode of securing the public liberty? It is, sir, a most fearful situation when the most contemptible minority can prevent the alteration of the most oppressive government. For it may, in many respects, prove to be such. Is this the spirit of republicanism? Do you hear anywhere here that it says democratism? No. It says republicanism. What, sir, is the genius of democracy? Let me read that clause of the Bill of Rights of Virginia, which relates to the third clause. The government is or ought to be instituted for the common benefit, protection, and security of the people, nation, or community. The government is or ought to be instituted for the common benefit, protection, and security of the people, nation, or community. Of all the various modes and forms of government, that is best which is capable of producing the greatest degree of happiness and safety, and is most effectually secured against the dangers of maladministration, and that whenever any government shall be found inadequate or contrary to these purposes, a majority of the community has an indubitable, unalienable, and undefensible right to reform, alter, or abolish it in such manner as shall be judged most conducive to the public weal. W-E-A-L. This, sir, is the language of democracy, that a majority of the community have a right to alter their government when found to be oppressive. But how different is the genius of your new Constitution from this? How different from the sentiments of freemen that a contemptible minority can prevent the good of the majority. If these gentlemen, ladies, standing on this ground are come to that point that they are willing to bind themselves and their posterity to be oppressed, I am amazed and inexpressibly astonished. If this be your opinion of the majority, I must submit but to me, sir, it appears perilous and destructive. I cannot help thinking so. Perhaps it may be the result of my age. These may be feelings natural to a man or a woman of my years, when the American spirit has left him and his mental powers, like Biden, like the members of the body, are decayed. If, sir, amendments are left to the 20th or the 10th part of the people of America, your liberty is gone forever. We have heard that there is a great deal of bribery practiced in the House of Representatives, in the House of Commons in England, or right now in the House of Representatives in Congress, and that many of the members raise themselves to preferments by selling the rights of the people. Meg Froelich, she is what he's talking about here. That Meg Froelich raised herself to preferments by selling the rights of the people in her district. But, sir, the 10th part of the body cannot continue oppressions on the rest of the people. English liberty, American liberty, is in this case on a firmer foundation than American liberty. It will be easily contrived to procure the oppression of 1/10 of the people to any alteration, however judicious. The honorable gentlemen and ladies who presides told us that to prevent abuses in our government, we will assemble in conventions, recall our delegated powers, and punish our servants for abusing the trust reposed to them. Oh, sir, we should have fine times indeed, if to punish tyrants it were only sufficient to assemble the people. Your arms wherewith you could defend yourself are gone. Are we not having here in Colorado, Meg Froelich is saying that we're going to get rid of gun violence. We're going to regulate and make sure you can't buy a gun. Yes, he's saying that. They're taking away our right to defend ourselves in our state capital. And have no longer a aristocratical, no longer democratical spirit. Did you ever read of any revolution in any nation brought about by the punishment of those in power? Inflicted by those who had no power at all? You read of a riot act in a country which is called one of the freest in the world, where a few neighbors cannot assemble without the risk of being shot by a hired soldiery, like in Cuba, the engines of despotism. We may see such an act in America. A standing army we shall have also to execute the execrable command of tyranny. And how are you to punish them? Will you order them to be punished? Who shall obey these orders? Will your mace bearer be a match for a disciplined regiment? In what situation are we to be? The clause before you gives a power of direct taxation, unbounded and unlimited. Amendment 16 gives a direct taxation to the federal government to tax us directly. It should be invalidated. I have an amendment to the Constitution, which I'd like to set forth in an initiative next in the general election in 2024 to make a conflict here in the state with the federal government and end our federal income tax. Because of this, right here, what he's saying, I'm going to read it again. In what situation we are to be. The clause before you gives a power of direct taxation, unbound and unlimited, exclusive power of legislation in all cases whatsoever for 10 miles square, and over all places purchased for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, etc. And today, we have the federal government is going beyond just the military and actually sending money to other countries. Crazy. Crazy. Our government has run away. What resistance could be made? How could we resist this taxation, this inflation? The attempts would be madness. You will find all the strength of this country in the hands of your enemies. Those garrisons will naturally be the strongest place in the country. Your militia is given up to Congress, also in another part of this plan. They will therefore act as they think proper. All power will be in their own possession. You cannot force them to receive their punishment Or what service would militia be to you, when most probably you will not have a single musket in the state, for as arms are to be provided by Congress, they may or may not furnish them. Let me here call your attention to that part which gives the Congress power to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training militias according to the discipline prescribed by Congress with a big C. By this, sir, you see that their control over the last best defense is unlimited. If they neglect or refuse to discipline or arm our militia, they will be useless. The states can do neither, the power being exclusively given to Congress. The power of appointing officers over men not disciplined or armed is ridiculous. So that this pretended little remains of power left to the states may at the pleasure of Congress be rendered nugatory. Our situation will be deplorable indeed, nor can we ever expect to get this government amended, since I already shown that a very small minority may prevent it, and that small minority interested in the continuance of the oppression. Will the oppression let go the oppressed? Was there ever an instance? Can the annals of mankind, womankind, exhibit one single example where rulers overcharged with power willingly let go the oppressed, though solicited and requested most earnestly? The application for amendments will therefore be fruitless. Sometimes the oppressed have got loose by one of those bloody struggles that desolate a country. A willing relinquishment of power is one of those things which human nature never was, nor ever will be capable of. Our politicians will not relinquish their power if they are hungry for more power. That's what he's saying here. The honorable gentlemen and ladies' observation respecting the people's right of being the agents in the formation of this government are not accurate in my humble conception. The distinction between a national government and a confederacy is not sufficiently discerned. Had the delegates who were sent to Philadelphia a power to propose a consolidated government instead of a confederacy, were they not disputed by states and not by the people? The assent of the people in their collective capacity is not necessary to the formation of the federal government. The people have no right to enter into leagues, alliances, and confederations. They are not the proper agents for the purpose. States and sovereign powers are the only proper agents for this kind of government. Show me an instance where the people have exercised this business. Has it not always gone through legislatures? I refer you to the treaties with France, Holland, and other nations. How were they made? Were they not made by the states? Are the people therefore in their aggregate capacity the proper persons to form a confederacy? This therefore ought to depend on the consent of the legislature, the people having never sent delegates to make any proposition of changing the government. Yet I must say at the same time that it was made on grounds the most pure, and I perhaps might have been brought to consent to it so far as to change the government, but there is one thing in it which I never would acquiesce in. I mean, changing it into a consolidated government, which is what we're doing today. And is aberrant to my mind. The honorable gentlemen, ladies, that then went to the figure we make with foreign nations, the contemptible one we make in France and Holland, which according to the system of my notes, he attributes to the present feeble government. An opinion, and we do have a feeble government today with Biden in office. Yeah. An opinion has gone forth. We find that we are contemptible people. The time has been when we were thought otherwise under this same despised government. We commanded the respect of all Europe. Wherefore are we now reckoned otherwise? The American spirit has fled from hence. It has gone to regions where it has never been expected. It has gone to the people of France in search of splendid governments. A strong, energetic government. Shall we imitate the examples of those nations who have gone from a simple to a splendid government? I think we're talking about our splendid government right now. Are those nations more worthy of imitation? What can make an adequate satisfaction to them for the loss they suffered in attaining such a government? For the loss of their liberty. If we admit this consolidated government, it will be because we like a great splendid one. Some way or another, we must be a great and mighty empire. We must have an army and a navy and a number of things. When the American spirit was in its youth, the language of America was different. Liberty, sir, was the primary object. Liberty. 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 Is liberty still the primary object today? You tell me, comment below. We descended from a people whose government was founded on liberty. Our glorious forefathers of Great Britain made liberty the foundation of everything. That country is become a great, mighty, and splendid nation. Today, America was founded on liberty. And it became a great and splendid nation, not because the government is strong and energetic, but, sir, because liberty is its direct and foundation. We drew the spirit of liberty from our British ancestors. The spirit we have triumphs over every difficulty. It's liberty. Black, whether you are black, white, Hispanic, yellow, brown, Asian, Irish, whatever you want to call yourself, our ancestors gave us the spirit of liberty. But now, sir, the American spirit assisted by the ropes and chains of consolidation. And here we are today. The American spirit is assisted by the ropes and chains of consolidation into a new world order. Do you really want to? Do we have liberty in this new world order? Is about to convert this country to a powerful and mighty empire, a world empire, without our consent. If you make the citizens of this country agree to become subjects of one great consolidated empire of America or of the world, your government will not have sufficient energy to keep them together. Such government is incompatible with the genius of republicanism. There will be no checks, no real balances in this government. What can avail your specious imagery balances, your rope dancing, chain rattling, ridiculous ideal checks and contrivances? But sir, we are not feared by foreigners. We're not feared by China. We do not make nations tremble anymore. We used to. Would this, sir, constitute happiness or secure liberty? I trust, sir, our political hemisphere will ever direct their operations to the security of those objects. Consider our situation, sir. Go to the poor man. Go to the homeless man or woman. Ask him or her what he or she does. He will inform you that he enjoys the fruits of his labor under his own fig tree, with his wife and children around him in peace and security. Go to every member of society. You will find the same tranquil case and content. You will find no alarm or disturbance. Why then tell us of the dangers to terrify us into an adoption of a new government? And yet, who knows the dangers that this new system may produce? They are out of the sight of the common people. They cannot foresee latent consequences. I dread the operation of it on the middling and lower class of people. It is for them I fear the adoption of this system. I fear I tire the patience of the committee, but I beg to be indulged with a few more observations. When I thus profess myself an advocate for the liberty of the people, I shall be told I am a designing man. I am a designing woman. I see great jeopardy in this new government. I see none from our present one. I hope some gentlemen and ladies or other will bring forth in full array those dangers, if there be any, that we may see and touch them. That was Patrick Henry. And I end this video right now. Please like and subscribe and comment below if you understood what I just read. Thank you.